I now call to order the regular meeting for the Leominster Conservation Commission for April 11th, 2017. Before I get started, I'd like to welcome our new member, Liz Ricci, to the board. Our first hearing is a continued hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, to be a public hearing to consider notice of intent by Daniel and Marina Proetti for the construction of a new driveway within a 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland. Address Pierce Street, map 529, lot 4.
Yeah, I have a email from Dan Proietti requesting. It says, Marco, I am requesting an extension for my application to the April 25th conservation meeting and to cancel my April 11th appearance. Thanks, Dan Proietti. So we'll have him on for April 25th. However, before April 25th, I'd like to conduct a site walk. So I sent out a doodle poll to everybody for their city emails. So please participate, and we will find a good date, probably next week.
Next week.
Next week, after 4 o'clock sometime.
Does weekends work better?
We also have weekends.
Nights work better for...
We got Easter this weekend, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this weekend's
Yeah.
out.
This weekend might be tough.
Next weekend, weekends have been busy for me, so,
Have they?
you know, but I can, so what I did is when I answered it, I didn't put weekends in. If it ends up being a weekend, I'll try to get there, but,
Right.
Okay.
It's tough for me, I'm down the Cape most weekends now.
oh, then weekends, you know,
It's a
what the
hard
weekend.
assignment.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's on a weekend. Dedication.
Okay.
So, all right, we'll answer the doodle, we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
All right, on to our regular meeting. Certificates of compliance,
None.
extension permits,
None.
communications,
None.
minutes,
None yet.
new business, change to an existing order of conditions, DEP 1990965, 83 Cotton and 44 Pond Street.
So I had the representative cancel at 3 o'clock today for this one. He'll be submitting a new notice of intent for that project.
Okay.
But he also has to close out the existing order.
Is that the Rockwell, right? One thing just to keep in mind is they did have a tank on that property,
Like an oil tank?
an oil tank that was never identified, so we may want somebody on site when they have to drill piers, because I think that the proposal might have been.
Sure, alright.
But just in case, just so it's fresh in people's minds in case I forget.
Thank you.
Is that the actual Rockwell?
Yeah,
Roofing?
it was the addition, the other building they purchased on the corner of Pond, and
Okay.
so it was never identified on any set of plans, so
Oh.
nobody knows where it is.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
You have any idea, or?
No.
Remember?
No, but it came up at the meeting. It was something that we went to the city, and the city didn't have any
So there's no record
indication
of
of
it?
it. They knew it existed because they knew it was like a 200-gallon tank, but they just don't know where on the property it was located.
Mhm.
And I guess the building doesn't use that heating system anymore, so they would have to do, some substantial excavating, and that could open up a bigger can of worms.
Former owners can't identify the location?
Apparently not. Yeah.
Didn't we do this, one thing, I put a driveway between
Yeah.
the two buildings? That's
That's
that
that
white
one,
building
yeah.
on the corner. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're doing a site walk, was it a year ago, 2 years ago,
Yeah.
actually? Okay. So they're gonna come in with a new NOI.
Correct.
Old business,
None.
enforcements, 723 Willard Street.
So I have a update from William Hannigan, the representative for Mr. Gambini. He says, Marco, regarding Peter Gandini's property, we are waiting for the snow to clear, then it snowed again, then it has been raining. We're hopeful to get out there in the next couple of weeks to get the encroachment items located. We are backed up a bit with the rain on our other projects, but we have been authorized by Peter to prepare a plan to review with the city. Please pass this along to the commission members. Thanks. So reached out to me with that notice. But I have this on here tonight as, to send another reminder letter. The commission thinks that is something worth doing.
One question I have on that, I remember at one time we had discussed the idea of marking the property boundaries between the property in question and city property.
Okay.
Seeing if the DPW could do that, one of the engineers, I guess one of them is a surveyor too, or something, or even if it was something we had to, do sort of.
Sure, well, while they're preparing that plan, we could have them
Yeah.
stake it out. So I'll shoot a letter, requesting to have it staked out on site.
That'd be good, that way we know exactly where that
Yeah.
line is.
Yeah, all right.
Well, that lot is pretty rectangular, so it shouldn't be much of an
Right,
issue.
should be pretty
as far as
straightforward.
That's what I'm saying, if
determining-
we just have the two corners staked, at least we'll know exactly.
Yeah.
Was there any timeline on that?
No, I didn't give a timeline. He said, hopefully within the next couple of weeks
Okay.
to start making a plan.
Mr. Chairman, these building permits that are attached to the
Mhm.
schematic, are these permits for the structures in question that are encroaching on the conservation land?
No, they're not. We have 3 building permits that I pulled from the file for, a pool and a pool house building,
Right.
which aren't included in the encroachment.
So that's not on the encroachment. So we have no record of building permits for what is on the
I
conservation?
mean, when I look at this, it says New Colonial House, and that was dated 6/22, and some scribbles, I can't
It's
read.
93.
93. And then it shows obviously in-ground pool,
Yeah.
and that was in '04, and a pool house in '05. So if I remember correctly, there was some basketball courts
Some
and
courts,
some other things, so I don't
stonework,
honestly
fire
see,
pit.
yeah.
That
So
type of stuff.
this looks like it was just for the original
Yeah.
property as we saw here.
All right.
That's what I gathered from these permits, so.
That is correct.
So these permits go up to 2005, that's the newest.
Yeah.
And I think the maps that we had showed the encroachment starting around 2008.
Yeah, I remember there was a.
Somewhere around there, was it 8?
What-
We don't know
those
for
dates?
sure, but we have a lapse in satellite imagery available.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
2004 and 2009
Yeah.
what we have available. So, post 2004, pre 2009.
So there are no records of building permits after 2005?
Mr. Chairman, I just have some questions on this. In terms of the encroachment notification, what did specifically we say in that? Was it just for the courts? Was it for the shed, or?
It was specifying the courts and the kind of like accessory shed out there.
Okay, so the shed was included in that?
Right.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
As I looked at the aerial images of the history, it almost looks like there was a shed there before the city acquired the property. Looks like that was probably then moved at some point, and then possibly, judging by the size of it, a new one was built, kind of to replace that. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think you mentioned at one time too, Marco, that the shed had lights on it?
Yeah, that's what the building card said, well, the property card. The assessors went out there, did a measurement of the property and any accessory buildings, and they noted a shed with electric hookup.
Okay. In Leominster, the issuance of an electric permit, does that go through the building inspector, or is that separate? Is the building inspector aware that there's electric out there?
That's a good question, and I'll follow through with that.
I think we need to notify the building inspector about that.
Sure. All right.
Any other questions? Ken?
I think that's it for now, other than, it looks like the plan that's been provided to us tonight is an as-built of the existing house.
Yes,
So,
this was done 2004.
so even without having somebody survey those property corners, we can get a pretty good idea from this plan and the aerial images where exactly that lies, so that's gonna be helpful to us.
Absolutely.
And in Bill's response, he said back to the city, did he say what department it was gonna go through?
He did not
So he
specify
just-
what
He said
department.
just get back to the city.
Yeah, so get back to the city, but he said pass along to the commission members, so
Okay,
most likely referencing us.
okay. Mr.
I
Chair?
have one thing for enforcement,
Yeah.
just to bring up. Just before the meeting tonight, I had gone out to my car and I heard an excavator, and there's some excavation work being done very close to Lake Samoset. It looks as though they're moving fill, probably, it looks like sand, just being kind of spread with some sort of bucket truck, like one of the cats or whatever. So, I'm gonna try to get out there. I couldn't go there because I would have been late for the meeting, but I can try to get out there tomorrow if they're there, but I don't know if maybe you could take a peek.
Yeah, I'll take it.
And I don't know if it's, where they're doing it now, it might be something that the property owner's doing after work.
Okay,
So, I'll try to look, at the end of my work day,
sure.
around this time and see,
All right. Well, if you'd like to meet out there, let me know.
Okay,
And I can go with you.
okay, thank you.
Anything else on enforcement? Do we wanna leave Willard Street for our next meeting? Hopefully we have an update.
Yeah, I'll leave it on there, and I'll get in touch with Mr. Hannigan and just update the
So
commission
just
on what,
something in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
update you guys.
Emergency certification, Lewis Knock Brook, looks like the wall fell.
Yep, we had a retaining wall collapse. It wasn't really much of a wall. It was, rocks and mortar. So that was on Tuesday of last week. It was issued on Wednesday of last week, which was April 5th. And basically, the emergency cert just covered, what would it take to abate the emergency. Remove compromised section of wall and any debris from the stream. Install a concrete Jersey barrier wall in the stream to divert water flow away from the compromised section of wall. Backfill Jersey barrier wall with riprap stone against stream bank to prevent further erosion, and to fortify the diversion wall until a repair plan is designed and project funding is established. So, could be a couple years out until we have a solid fix for that.
Is that what they put? I noticed from the pictures, they put some sort of, is that what's back there is Jersey barriers? and-
Jersey barriers,
Just to kind of catch any of that.
divert any flow away from that.
What was the total length, Marco, of the
About 30 feet.
30 feet?
So,
Did it take, I haven't been out there, but just from the pictures, it looked like it, how far back? I know the bank's parking lot looked like it was right there.
yeah, that's like a roadway, but it's not city owned. It's like kind of like a private road. And it got close. It started cracking the asphalt along the berm there.
Is it gonna be stable now that they got the
It's stable
riprap and
now.
stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it due to the rain? Is that when we were having?
Yeah, waterlogged conditions and
Did the DPW do it?
yeah.
Because I've seen quite a few of these, over the years, and this is actually the best one that I've seen done.
Yeah.
Usually they just
Good
dump,
at it.
they just dump the material in. This time having the barrier in the water
Yeah.
keeps everything contained.
They also compacted the riprap into the
Yeah, it looked like
bed.
they sloped it.
Yeah.
They did a very nice
From
job.
the pictures, it looked as good as could be when it collapsed like
Right,
that.
and
so.
it was heavy flow during that fix, so definitely positioning those Jersey barriers wasn't easy for them.
Right.
They did it.
Well, they did a good job.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Marco, you mentioned that the road is private,
Yeah.
and is the property line, is all of the work on city property?
Well, I shouldn't say it's private, but it's not a dedicated city street, I should say.
Oh,
It's kind of like a common street. I don't know the exact term for it.
Right. But it's all city responsibility for the repair.
Did you say the repair could be a couple years away?
Depending on project funding and because of the condition of that current wall, we might be replacing that entire length of retaining wall for that section of the stream. So a permanent fix to the solution might be a couple years down the road. Just a rough estimate.
Okay.
I haven't been to the site. I did look at the photos. I think the photos were pretty explicit in what happened there, what was there.
Sure.
I did take a look at the flood maps as well. The topography on the town GIS system, is that 29 datum or is that 88?
I think it's 29 down.
So the same as the flood maps?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
That's a direct.
So that 100-year floodplain actually goes over the parking lot there, right? That fill, that riprap area, you're essentially taking a pretty well-defined channel, the flat walls, pretty good laminar flow
Sure.
there. Now you've put that riprap out on top of land underwater, land subject to flooding, as well as the bank alteration itself. You're gonna get some turbulent flow there, right, where you have a pretty strong velocity zone. I'm not comfortable with letting that sit there for a couple of years. I think the city should look a little bit more diligently into getting that repair work done, as well as they could be jeopardizing their status under the National Flood Insurance Program for allowing fill to sit in that location.
All right.
If it was fill within a floodplain, within land subject to flooding that wasn't affecting the stream itself and you didn't have velocity concerns, things of that nature, I'd be more comfortable with letting it sit there. But right smack in the middle of where that is, I think that's a hazard that should be looked at much closer than 2 years down the road. I did look at the emergency certificate. I'm absolutely thrilled that the city got out there and did that repair work. They did a pretty good job. I agree with Larry on that one. But the way that the certificate's worded, I think it gives the city too much leeway to do it at their leisure. I think there should be a little bit more effort into how they're going to obtain the funding and what an approximate timetable is. 2 years, as far as I'm concerned, is a little too long for me on that.
Okay, all right. I could certainly amend the emergency cert to put a time frame in there.
And
Is,
I don't know how others are feeling, so it's...
no, I mean, the sooner the better. I mean, it comes down to funding.
And that's,
Now,
believe me, that's where DPW is at as well. It's just,
Right. Now, what about, because I know the whole Manusnock Brook, was
The
it
Greenway?
reconstruction,
Oh.
Greenway,
Yeah.
because that's obviously part of it, that collapsed. a
well, that
little
was
bit.
phase one.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so, I know we can't use that money for that, but,
I know,
Go on.
unfortunately.
not in that, but, yeah.
Could the project be done in stages? Is it possible, rather than wait to get funding to do the whole thing at once, could you correct the center portion and then do the 2 wings of it
I'm sure that could be done.
later?
I'm sure there's some temporary shoring that can be done to get the fill out of the brook. You know, it might not be pretty, but there's some, metal plating and some shoring that can be done.
Yeah.
So if it did need to stay for 2 years, I think it could happen. It's just, it's more costly than what
Yeah.
kind of the temporary fix they did, so. We'd have to kind of leave that up to
Yeah, I could open some
DPW,
dialogue.
but just to see. How far into the brook did it? It was hard to tell from the pictures. It looked like it was a few feet
Yeah,
anyways,
definitely.
you know.
What if we wrote a letter to the mayor, just with our concerns, at least, beyond the DPW, copy the mayor so that he's, he may not even know, I mean, he may be aware it happened, but he may not realize the severity of leaving it, Because there always is discretionary, they always have free cash that comes up. This is kind of an emergency project that,
Right.
sometimes the longer you wait, the more it costs too.
Yeah. Do you want to do that?
Okay with that.
Do some,
Need a motion for that?
Yeah, we can.
Sure.
Do we have a motion to write a letter for DPW and the mayor for hopefully some emergency funds?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Opposed? Right. Margaret, can you write that up?
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's some things that we can, at least if it's, might not be pretty, but it'll be temporary. Any-
We have to ratify this, so do we want to talk about how we want to reword, do we want to reword this? Because this has to be ratified by the commission, so the certificate, the emergency certificate.
If I may, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman. I guess I would like to give Marco some time to just have dialogue with the city officials,
Okay.
see if they can come up with anything a little bit more concrete, and then maybe we'd all be on board with it and just implement that into an emergency certificate thing,
Yeah.
which I don't think that, I think what I'm hearing here is everybody's okay with the work they've done and do an emergency certificate. I don't think there's any dispute there. It's just a matter of potentially the timeline to get the permanent fix in. So I don't think it's urgent that we ratify it tonight, but
Is it 21 days, or is there a term, is there an?
It just says the next meeting,
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's,
so wording for it.
Alright.
Yeah. Now, next meeting is
Yeah, that
in
works.
2 weeks, so that just
Yeah.
happened. Anything else, emergency, sir?
No.
Project updates? None? The dreaded budget. How we doing, Marco?
Still working on a letter to write to the comptroller on that, so
Okay.
expect that for next meeting.
Have you been keeping track of your
I have.
spreadsheet of incoming, outgoing? Okay.
It's all up to date.
Agent report?
I don't have anything to really say.
Okay. Chairman's report, I have nothing. Next meeting is April 25th, 2017, with a filing deadline of April 13th. Anything else? I declare this meeting adjourned.